you had a point that you were railing about when I showed up here and walked in your door today.
Look, I said this back in March when Ogunjobi and Hoyt got suspended. Everybody on social media, you guys were bitching about their 6-game suspensions. Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, Falcons, all in the first 6 weeks. Week 7 bye. Miss me with that shit. However...
Everybody to another edition of the Rock Pile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. In studio with us, Dr. Kyle Trimble from bangedupbills.com. Guys, we just wrapped up a great show talking about NFL injuries ahead, the Bills injuries ahead of the opening of NFL OTAs. If you don't go watch it, you're an ass. A lot of great conversation, a lot of references to terrible, cheap beer, a lot of shots at my own stupidity, but that's par for the course, right?
Absolutely.
Guys, we are here talking about the NFL schedule release. I didn't feel like making our live stream. Chris, how do you make a live stream about something that every NFL team has boiled down into, hey, we're going to make a funny video and have the entire schedule tweeted out in 30 seconds? How do you structure a live podcast stream around something that only takes 30 seconds to get out?
I don't know. I think there's like 500 people watching Capaccio and Beauvais right now. But, I mean, good on the Bills PR staff to do and content team to do it in AI by Allen Iverson.
If you stack up social media teams across the NFL, I would put the Bills up there against anybody's.
That's really creative. I mean, they did a great job with that.
I mean, but nothing beats Tennessee's because they did it back-to-back seasons where they just ask people on Broadway what team this is, and people are just so stupid. Oh, no, this is that. It's the Cowboys, and it's the fucking Colts logo.
It's not stupid. What it is that it underscores that, well, we're maniacs about this sport, and we know everything about it and all the nuances and we are like a 10% slice of the human population that actually gives a shit about this. The rest of humanity, they see a football being thrown around on a television and they go, okay, that's the thing that's happening. I'll watch 5 minutes of this. They don't know the players. They barely understand the rules. They don't care. And they just walk around living their whole lives this way. It's shocking to me.
I think my wife has asked me, I want to say 4 times in the last week, is there hockey tonight? Hockey stops at the end of June. I'm watching all of these playoff games.
She's like, is there hockey tonight?
My wife doesn't get it because she's never been married or dated to somebody that loves sport. And when I say sport, I mean hockey and football. Basketball does not count. Baseball kind of counts. She's never dated somebody.
It kind of counts.
She's never been with somebody like me who just like it's sports. And you know, we never even talked about this because you were sick last week. So the second night of the draft, she was like, "Oh, we're going to a party," and I was like, "Second night."
Yes, he was texting me during this.
Second night of the draft. There were other males there. I would say there were maybe like 6 to 10 males there, but there were 1 to 2 men there.
Okay. Chris sent me a text message at one point. He goes, he sent me a picture of a guy. Now these are people hanging out in a garage drinking. It's not like.
Luckily, the TV was on. There's a TV in the garage. TV was on the draft. I was watching the draft.
But don't get me wrong. This wasn't a Polish patio. Yeah. This was just a garage that had a car in it and a little bit of standing room.
Okay.
And like cardboard boxes.
Somebody asked me, hey, is it cool if I put the Bandit game on?
Well, considering
it's not the NLL finals. Okay. Bandits don't get put on any TV over the NFL draft. No, I'm watching this. This is important.
So this is what I love.
I would say make an exception with the playoffs, but that would be the only exception.
So I get a text message from Chris, and it's a guy who's wearing this like slightly fuzzy sweater. Now it's not that cold out, but he's wearing it. And he goes, if this asshole says magical to me unironically in a sentence one more time, I'm going to lose it. I was like, that's hilarious. You're hanging out with the worst people for an NFL event.
Yes, there were some males there only by biology, but there was one or two men there. Yeah.
Here you go again, making everything goddamn political.
I didn't make it political.
What I love, no, you know what this is though? It's
male
irony.
and men are.
The reason I let him go with this is because there's an irony to it that if you've ever watched the show Letterkenny,
Oh, yeah.
he's Hard Right Jay.
Yes.
He's this guy who will stand here and tell you this is what a man is. Well, he talks about his back injury and his waxed hair and his Chelsea boots. It's like there's this deliciously ironic thing that I just let happen. And
Somebody said something in the garage or like football's doing a thing and then walked in the house. I wanted to fight the man out of principle, but
he's like, yes, the football is doing a thing.
You want to come up, Hank Hill song, sort of kick him in the ass as he's walking away?
The Hank Hill. So this is the thing, guys. We're all here together tonight after we recorded our live show because the NFL schedule dropped. And I want to tell you a tale of tailgates and woe and optimism about the NFL season that's before us. Now that we understand the way that it lays out and just knee-jerk reaction style, my first conceptualization of what we're about to experience and what lays out there for the Buffalo Bills. So right off the top, we already know that the Buffalo Bills have the second least travel of any team in the NFL. That's a huge win, right?
It is, yes.
Chris, what did you say? One game outside of the Eastern time zone?
Correct.
Was that Houston, right?
Yeah, Houston.
Yeah.
We have 3 1 p.m. home games.
Here's the miles traveled.
There we go. It's on screen. You can see it. There's Buffalo. Cincinnati's the only team in the NFL with less. That's impressive.
You know what I should do? I should look and see if there's any correlation between the injury risks between how many miles they're doing. I just haven't thought about it until I looked at it. I'm like, did we travel more during certain years or where we beat up more? Like it might be once a correlation versus causation thing, but there might be something to it with how much recovery and rest they're getting.
Well, see, that's what I love about what you do over at bankedupbills.com is that you have this playground to just go do this type of stuff and say, hey, I found this cool thing.
There might be something to it. There might not be. This data is available. I'll look into it. There might be some type of correlation between the number of injuries. There might not be. It might just be, that's just how it is.
I feel like Los Angeles and Seattle hold the top 3 spots every year
now,
for this graphic.
Okay.
What I love, though, is that in typical Bills fan fashion, when I saw that graphic, my eyes immediately went looking for the Chiefs. I don't know why. It wasn't even about the Bills. I was like, where are those assholes? Where are they on this chart? Because I need to know that they're worse than us. Like we psychologically now, they've become the Patriots that we spent so many times dealing, where we always circle that date on our calendar, like Bills versus Patriots, when's the game? Now it's me looking at Kansas City going, if we have X, I need to know that they have Z. I need to know that they're worse than me.
Yes.
And if they're not, I'm going to complain about it as like it's unfair.
It's incredible that Los Angeles is going to travel almost 4 times the mileage we do, though they do have to go down in Brazil, which adds into that significantly.
Yes. I think Kansas City's also traveling internationally, aren't they?
Yeah. They're also going to Brazil, so that adds into that.
So we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but 3 1 p.m. home games, Chris, knowing that we have the least amount of travel.
Well, and caveat 3. Allegedly, I'm calling Jet game at the end of the season because we're going to have the division wrapped up and the Jets might have the number 1 pick wrapped up. That'll be a 1:00 game to end the season.
So 2024 Bills schedule. How many 1 p.m. games did we have? Home games.
I feel like we had 2 or 3.
About the same.
Yeah.
Like I remember walking into that Tennessee game and all of you were freaking out about how terrible the Bills were in the first half. I missed most of it and I didn't care. I had such a blast at the tailgate. I just wandered in, was happy-go-lucky. Everyone's yelling and miserable. The Bills stink. The offense is stuck. And I was like, guys, I just got here. This is fun. I'm half in the bag. We're having a blast. And then the rest of the game was a romp. I go, I don't know what you were all so mad about. This is a blast. I'm having fun. Chris, if you can go ahead and do me a favor, give me a Goog real quick. 2024 season, fact check me on that. How many 1 p.m. home games? What I think is interesting, 2 Sunday night games. Typically, you'd think they'd space those out over the course of a season. We have 2 in the first 5 weeks.
I mean, I want sometimes a little bit later in the season, but that's just how it works out.
So we have the season opener, right? Which, I'm not going to lie, is the Bills opening. Chris has the 2024 schedule up there. What do you got, Chris? What's your count?
For home games, 1 p.m. home games, 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4,
Okay.
5.
Okay.
Shocking.
This is almost a shout out to tailgate culture. Last year, the stadium, they are really giving us our money's worth in terms of, hey, you boys can go out there and spend bonus time in the parking lot.
I mean, you want to go Seagram's on this. I mean, it's going to take a while to get there. Based on the schedule, 2026, unless we win the Super Bowl this year, 2026, Buffalo opens week 1 home game Sunday Night Football.
Okay, fair.
pretty huge.
I believe that. Now, Chris, bring the 2025 schedule back. Here's what I look at the way that this schedule lays out for week 1. You know, they aired kind of the week 1 schedule first. And was like, here it is. Here's who's playing there, blah, blah, blah. What's a better game? The opening game of the season in Philly versus Dallas, or Sunday Night Football, Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore Ravens?
Us, because we're the Bills.
Chris, what Josh Allen has proven that he's must watch TV.
Yeah, but Philly's playing here, so that game would not be we wouldn't be up for opening night.
No. But I'm saying, if you compared them apples to apples and said, look, which game is going to draw better ratings? Is it Lamar Jackson against Josh Allen? Or is it Jalen Hurts against Dak Prescott? Which matchup is going to, like, I'd be interested to see the Nielsen rating after week 1 is over. Which game got more eyeballs?
It's probably gonna be the opening night game because it's the first real game back, just because from a rating standpoint. But I would think if you did apples to apples, close. It's got to be Sunday Night Football. I mean, just because you got 2 former MVP or current MVP, former MVP going against each other in a game that went down to a Mark Andrews drop in the end zone. I mean, that's how close it was. Dallas, they not pick the playoffs last year, correct? I mean, they're doing it because Dallas has always been a national team. Like, everybody follows them.
They're one of the top 3 markets in the NFL.
Exactly. That's why they're on the opening game. But otherwise, you're not putting them in there. But Jerry Jones has, blackmailing everybody, so he's going to get that opening game because he makes money.
Well, there's the Eagles' schedule that you guys can see. Detroit Lions in Week 11 would be probably the only team that I would consider for opening night. But I mean, their
schedule's kind of soft.
Stuff that goes into it with networks, not wanting to give up games. So Detroit and Philadelphia in Week 11. I mean, NBC is also the first game, is the opening game. So they also have that Lions game. So there's something with NBC that said, well, we want Detroit and Philadelphia, but we're saving that for later in the year and not the opening game. The opening game is going to be over with by the middle of the second quarter.
So this is where I say that even though the season starts with that Thursday Night Football game, I'd argue the most watched game of the week is going to be the Buffalo Bills against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. And
for
also,
entertainment value, absolutely.
If you're talking about a send-off to this stadium, Chris, our first game back, we get all day. I've literally been waiting all day for Sunday night. That'll be us out in the parking lot.
We did get a fourth wall here. We have a DM from EJ Snyder of Bootleg Football that said Ravens Bills week 1 with the chin scratching emoji.
Yeah.
We got 2 tickets. You Brett, want to come on out?
Also, Ken McCusick might be interested.
All right.
We might have a bidding war on our hands. Which one of you can bring us the most Montucky cold snacks? Ooh, wellity. So with that in mind, it's a great game to open the year with. Not only because it's a great litmus test, but I think that if we've learned from anything last season, you can sustain an early season loss to an opponent inside the conference who you know you're going to probably see in the playoffs.
Yep.
You can take that L in the first 5 weeks, and it doesn't mean your season's over. It didn't cost you nearly as much as later in the year when you might be jockeying with them for position, and then you take that loss. It feels bigger, right?
Yep. It's kind of like the college football season. It's easy to take that early season loss and build yourself back up rather than have that late season loss. You kind of lose some momentum.
When we lost to them last year, Josh Allen's attitude was just, okay, that's the thing that happened.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, they're mad about his stoicism on it. And the idea was he understands what being an NFL player for 18 weeks is. This week meant everything right up until it ended.
Yep.
Now it means nothing and we got to go to the next week. That's a good thing in the sense that win or lose, it's not going to change your focus for the season. And yet you get this game out of the way when you're the healthiest you're going to possibly be, in theory.
Yeah.
As long as nothing catastrophic happens to you in the preseason. Keep all the rubber mats away from Josh Allen. What other stupid things have happened to the Bills in preseason?
That's been the only crazy one I know of, but
Don't pull
slipping on mats.
Don't pull a Kevin Cobb, and I think it'll be nice to see both teams at full capacity.
Yes.
And I almost feel like that's why the league did it. Because there's so much, the Bills could say, well, we lost players, and that's why you guys came back.
we won't be at full capacity with the suspensions, but still, I'd rather say, hey, can we still beat these guys without these two? And then you have them later on. And
I'm happy you said that. But before we move on to that point, week 5 against New England seems early for that kind of game, doesn't it? Again, home on Sunday night. So 2 home Sunday night football games in the first month and a half of football. And it's against a divisional opponent. New England spent a lot of money this year. It almost feels like the NFL making that game a thing is them banking on the improvements that they paid for in the new head coach, turning the last primetime game they gave us against them into not such a mess, right?
exactly.
Like, Chris, it was a 4:00 game, right? When we played, it was 10 degrees last year. I think there was a 4:25 start.
Probably.
4:25 start against New England, and it was rough. Single-digit temperatures. Patriots take a 14-0 lead, and then we score 21 unanswered and just embarrass them on the way to a 24-21 win. So I think what they're banking on is, based on this, we think this team is close, and with the right coaching and all the money they spent, they're a shoo-in to give the Bills a run for their money and maybe show that there's another team in the AFC East that can compete. That's why Miami's getting prime time, but it's Thursday night.
Yep.
3 primetime games against conference opponents in the first 5 weeks is crazy.
And you got
All at home.
And you got the first, slate of AFC East games, 3 out of the first 5 games there, which is notable. I'd rather space that out a little bit more and get some of those games out of the way instead of playing all the division games at the end of the season in case you need them.
Yeah. There is one thing when I look at that early slate of games and I go, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that in the first month and a half of football, I'm going to get a Sunday night home game, 1 p.m. home or 1 p.m. away.
You get 2 Sunday night games.
Thursday night home, then another Sunday night, so my third primetime game in 5 weeks, and then another primetime game away the following week. So going into my week 7 bye, which feels early, we're going to talk about that
very much,
and that's why I'm happy you're here. A week 7 bye, and I've already had to stay up until midnight multiple times. I feel like Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. I'm getting too old for this shit. I can't do this anymore, guys. You are killing me. I can't be up until midnight this many times in this short of a window. I'm going to be delirious.
It does hurt because you're wired from the game. You're like, I can't sleep. And you have to take some time to wind down. You're on your phone. You're doing this and that. You're not falling asleep till 12:30, 1 o'clock.
I'm shirtless at 2 a.m. texting Chris SAT words. It's not a good place to be. So with that said, I like it in terms of the competitiveness. When you look at the opponents, Chris, that early slate, does it frighten you?
It doesn't. This is I'd have to text Iman for this. I would say first 5 weeks of that season, which game are we doing a brisket? Huh?
Yeah.
We got 3 home games, 3 evening games in the first 5 weeks. We're definitely doing a brisket.
I'm thinking about that, but you had a point that you were railing about when I showed up here and walked in your door today.
Oh, is it what I said back in March? When I said this, I said this back in March when Ogunjobi and Hoyt got suspended. Everybody on social media, you guys were bitching about their 6-game suspensions. Look at this. Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, Falcons, all in the first 6 weeks, losing record teams while they're gone. And then, to boot, week 7 bye. They're going to get acclimated during that week. And then you got the stretch run to end the season. Miss me with that shit, or however it goes.
Or however it goes, because we're too old to use that nomenclature.
Miss me with that Hoyt and Ogunjobi suspension shit.
So I love this idea that, like, this is a strong opening schedule for the Buffalo Bills. I like this. I like the way it lays out because we're at home where we were undefeated last year. The teams that are in front of us, New England, they're improved. They have better coaches. That's probably a tough game.
They have coaches that don't play cards on the airplane.
Yeah, what was going on in New England? Like I said, I'll never forget the talking to Mike Debate from Athlon Sports, where he had to agree with me that as a pool reporter, he's never seen a Patriots head coach admit publicly when asked, hey, so at the end of a failed season, he steps up to the microphone and they go, hey, coach, so, did this season really did you get to install all the things you wanted to, or did you come into this with a plan to develop certain things? And he admitted, well, yeah, we had a plan for every position group, and I had ideas on how I was going to grow each one and how each game we were going to do a little bit more with each one step by the end of the season. He goes, and then the season started, and it happened so fast. It was all and all I could think of was Ricky Bobby just slowly moving his hands. He's like, it's just the car. They were so fast. It just happened. You can't do that as an NFL head coach. You get fired after a single season when you do that. So that's going to be a tougher game than I think some people would give it credit for. But the New Orleans game, the Miami game, the Atlanta game, these are teams that you want to believe can take a step, but they've been losers. They've been losers perennially.
I'll say this for the Atlanta game, I'm still going to consider Penix as a rookie quarterback.
Yes.
Because he only had 1 start. And I do like McDermott's numbers versus rookie
quarterbacks. So now, Kyle, in your professional experience, a week 7 bye, for as much as that seems, to Chris's earlier point, like, hey, the suspensions, this will give them extra time. Yep. We're going to be able to hit the ground running in week 8, in theory, with a larger contingent of veteran players. Might give us some scheme flexibility that teams down, like Carolina and Kansas City, might not have seen everything schematically we can do on defense, because now you're going to add players who are versatile in their roles. And so you could catch both of those teams kind of off guard in terms of, hey, we're going to try to film study the Bills. We can't, because their defense is different now, because they've acclimated 2 different talents on their defensive line into the roster. And now they're back and we have no tape on that. I will say an early bye week, I don't feel good about that.
I'm not a fan of it. If I could switch like Houston, Pittsburgh, even Cincinnati and flip those, that'd be great to have a later bye week. But it always seems like the bye week comes at the perfect time every year, whether it's injuries or you start seeing them get beat up or just worn down. It always comes at the right time. Like, it doesn't seem ideal, but maybe we're dealing with some early, season injuries, and then, it just hits the right time. We get some guys back with Hoyt and Ogunjobi. And
in your experience, when
I was going to ask, that's why I had my hand raised, you dumbass.
Oh, we're in third grade.
What do you think this is, a Zoom chat? What are you? Yeah, exactly. What are you, a child? Just say, hey, assholes, I have a thought.
I was going to say, is Carolina still considered a bye week?
It's not a bye week, but I'm not considering them to be a tough out by any means.
I don't see them as a credible threat. I treat them like New Orleans, another failed AFC South team.
NFC
South, AFC South, they're both kind of the same, right?
Well, because a bunch of losers
playing grab ass.
I only bring that up
down there in the bayou.
Bye week, and then Carolina, then Kansas City. Kansas City is coming off of a bye against the Bills.
That's fine. But you know what? That's fine. I'll accept that, and here's why. We get a bye shortly before that. We're adding, again, new players, gives us a little bit of an added dynamic that Kansas City won't have seen before. But realistically, I don't love the fact that it's so early because you've seen you've specifically charting injuries over at bangedupbills.com. You know what a war of attrition the NFL season is. You would almost prefer to have that bye a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Just to give those guys that mid-season rest.
Yeah.
Last year, it came at the perfect time.
It did. Yep.
And it allowed us to get guys like, hey, we're going to bring Matt Milano back in and we're going to do all these things. And you saw the team kind of before, because we played Kansas City right before the bye, I think. Didn't we?
Yeah. And then when did we play Philadelphia coming out of the bye?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Philadelphia, and then it was, Philly last year?
I thought it was Philadelphia, or was it
not
Los
last
Angeles?
Chiefs.
No, it was San Francisco.
Chiefs bye week,
okay.
San Francisco.
San Francisco, LA, Lions. Like
We didn't
that
play
was
Philadelphia. What the hell am I talking about?
like that 3-game run coming out of the bye week.
That was 2 years ago.
Was a murderer's row.
Yeah.
And that was one in the preseason when you're sitting here looking at the schedule, you go, shit, that's a run where after this tough opening slate, we're really going to have to win. And we went 2-1 and we could 2-1 and we could have been 3-0.
Yep.
If we didn't give up a blocked punt for a touchdown. Like
Yep.
it goes to show you how good this team is, but also the power of that bye week being where it was. Our team was able to kind of get a little bit of fresh air into it, breathe a little bit, and then hit that back half really hard. Yep. I like that, and I'm worried that having it early this year can, down the stretch, you may see more players with nagging injuries, or you may see guys who are like, they're playing, but they're not 100%.
Exactly.
Because they don't have that free week.
Nobody is 100% by the time they get to the season, but who can have the most players at that 100%? I know that Joe Marino's talked about this a lot on his podcast, where most of the Super Bowl winners have had a bye a week 10 or later. I think there's been the Eagles last year were like week 5 bye, and then there might have been a Patriots one where they had an earlier one, but most of the winners have been later. So at the end of the day, you still have to show up and be ready to play regardless of when your bye week is.
You got to play. Yeah. And if there's any team that can do it. Now, you said something about this during our live stream that we just finished.
Yep.
And I think it plays a role in this. When you have teams where you watch guys try to play through injuries, like Dalton Kincaid did.
Yep.
And then everyone goes, wait a minute, he had how many knee injuries? And he was still out there running around. And you watch how many Bills players are willing to play through injuries. I go back to remember the Titans when they're just like, leadership and what is it? What's their names? The DNs who have the beef. Bertier and I
can't remember the other
oh my God. But he's just like, look, you have to earn my respect.
Yep.
And he does. And then everyone kind of follows his lead and they know this kid's tough as nails. He's just as tough as we think we are. Mm-hmm. And he's willing to go to the mat, so we're willing to go to the mat with him.
Yep.
How much of a benefit is it to a football team that's coached by a guy like Sean McDermott when you see a quarterback like Josh Allen who you go, this guy's a juggernaut, he's running people over, and then people go, oh, wait, he played through an AC joint sprain as a quarterback? And he was like, fuck it, I don't care.
I know. Yeah, it's incredible he's played through. I mean, he's defied any statistical understanding of the injuries, how they manage them, anything that he should be playing through. Like, he really has defied everything. Like, I'm still pissed off when he played through that elbow injury because everybody else should not have played.
Yeah, it's a UCL tear.
I know.
You shouldn't be doing anything.
He shouldn't have been.
And he's like, nah, I got it.
Exactly. Yeah, PRP injection said, hell with it. I'm going out and playing. And it just, all the stuff he's played through, even that he had a lingering rotator cuff injury in the 2023 season he played through. It's like the things that he does, despite being less than 100%, it's like, is this going to catch up with him? But let's just try to keep going until.
And he said this. He's like, last year was the best. He's like, this past year was the best he's felt coming out of a season
on his feet,
in forever. Some of it's the line protecting him from hits, but some of it's him being smarter and not having to do so much heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But with that, the roster as a whole gets more behind a guy who they know, like, this guy's, you're going to have to kill him to stop him. And so with that said, the team maybe plays through a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
A Dalton Kincaid goes, my knee hurts, but it's not that bad. Because Josh Allen's out there, I should be out there.
Yeah. You have to be really hurt to be able to not go, or, hey, the training staff's holding you back, saying, hey, this could get worse if you play through this.
Yeah, so I feel like we have a leg up on everybody else who has to have these conversations about, oh, my bye week, and where do I get my injury rest? These guys will drive themselves crazy because they're watching the guy who runs the room.
Yeah.
You know, they only gave out 2 C's last year. They're watching the guy on offense who has one just walk across water like Wyatt Earp and Tombstone, and they're like, oh, God, I guess I can get behind him. Fuck it. I'm going to follow him to hell and back. I like that. And I think it gives us an advantage that a lot of teams don't have. Now, strength of schedule is a conversation a lot of people want to have. I've seen it talked about how the Bills have like the 5th easiest strength of schedule, but that's off last year's win-loss totals, which we know don't mean anything. What I love is I go to 2 things. I pull up the schedule and I look at how many elite quarterbacks or quarterbacks of note are on your schedule, how many head coaches that you would view as upper echelon head coaches are present on your schedule. Generally speaking, those are the things that are going to determine whether or not you get it, whether you have a rough ride. Because how many times do you go into a team that's coached by a first-year head coach with a rookie quarterback or an inexperienced or a veteran retread quarterback, and they take you to the wire?
Not too often.
It's not too often.
I mean, sometimes it happens, but it might come down to time and season.
If you're good.
Yeah.
If you're a good team, that doesn't happen very often. So I like looking at through that lens. And when you look at quarterbacks, the only quarterbacks I see are Jackson, Mahomes, Burrow, and Hurts. There really are no other quarterback of notes. Now, there's people say, well, you're overlooking Drake May. I haven't seen Drake May do anything that I'm impressed by.
You can put C.J. Stroud in there.
Michael Penix Jr. C.J. Stroud, nobody regressed
Bryce
harder.
Young.
Nobody regressed harder in 2024 than C.J. Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
Also, is Aaron Rodgers going to play in Pittsburgh?
Let him. By week 13, he'll have already suffered at least 2 different injuries.
Too bad elite Derek Carr is not playing for New Orleans this year.
We did get a message from someone who was like
Terry White from England.
Terry White from England goes, it's a rough week for Chris. What was it? Elite quarterback.
Yeah.
Elite quarterback retires. What else were you wrong on?
Derek Carr was elite.
It's amazing how long you guys have been going, how many inside jokes you have, and people are like, what the fuck are they talking about?
New people have no idea.
Go back 10 years when this podcast started.
Chris was adamant Derek Carr was elite, and now that he retires, Chris, is he getting fitted for a gold jacket?
No, because he's got to retire early.
Do you know that he had 1 playoff appearance and it was a lopsided loss?
Do you also know the amount of things he had to overcome in Oakland?
Do you know
/ Las Vegas?
And
then when he became a free agent, all of the things he had to overcome in New Orleans, and by all the things, I mean just Mickey Loomis.
But the salary cap's not real, right?
No, it's not.
I think the fact that we play, like, first of all, we play the AFC and we play the NFC South, first of all. The NFC South is a wasteland of NFL talent. They're the only team.
We play the AFC North.
Yeah. The
AFC North, NFC South.
Yep. And the NFC South has been a cesspool for a long time. I mean, they're the team that perennially has people talking about, just because you win your division doesn't mean you deserve a home playoff game. It's always because of the NFC South.
Sometimes NFC West, but they've gotten better.
They've gotten better. To the point where you have to fear the Rams because they're always going to, like, they soundly beat the Vikings in the playoffs. They deserve to be there, right?
Absolutely.
So with that said, There is no team that I've seen play out of the NFC South that I thought went into a playoff game and deserved to be there in years. Just didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And it's unfortunate that somebody has to travel there to play the winner of that nonsense.
The Atlanta Falcons have 5 primetime games, the maximum allowable by the NFL.
So they really believe in Michael Penix
Atlanta.
Jr.
Yeah, they think Atlanta is going to be good this year.
Good on them. Good luck. What's that Morgan Freeman gif where he's just like, good luck. Good luck with all that.
Yeah, it's week 2 Minnesota, then the Bills Monday night game. After the Monday night game,
What I found interesting,
it's San Francisco, and then I think they got 1 or 2 at the end of the year in December.
I asked Chris how many head coaches of note were on the schedule, and he said 4. And I thought that he was in alignment with the coaches or the quarterbacks that I saw. And instead he goes, Vrabel, Chris, who else? Harbaugh?
Vrabel, Harbaugh, Reed, and Sirianni. Now, before we started recording, I asked you for what do you mean by good coach? And then you said somebody that's been successful for multiple years. Now, so Vrabel with Tennessee got to 2 AFC title games or 2 divisional games? It doesn't matter. They didn't win anything in the end, but he was consistent with
No love
with
for
winning.
Zach Taylor?
No. They didn't make the playoffs last year.
And that's I think where this breaks down. This is kind of a make or break season for Zach Taylor, isn't it?
It's getting there. If he has another subpar season, you got to maybe look at see if they're got to move on to somebody else because you have all this talent you signed to. You better maximize it while they're still, I want to say, relatively cheap. But
you've broken the bank to pay for offensive talent, and you have nothing to speak of on defense. And now the defensive end that you've decided to play chicken with is publicly saying, "I will not play without a new contract." And he's admitted it's become personal. I'm not going to play. So you where are you as a head coach talking to ownership and talking to the GM going, hey, we got to fix this, guys, because I need that guy. I have to have that guy if I'm going to be.
Dude, I saw somebody tweeted out a photo of a Cincinnati press conference because they were.
He showed up to OTAs and like a polo.
No, they had a microphone attached to the thing that they had TVs attached to in elementary school to show us videos.
Oh no,
and
like an AV card?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was like their idea. That was their idea of a podium to hold a microphone was the audio video cart from elementary school.
God.
This is amazing.
That's how
the
cheap
most
the
Cincinnati-
Bengals
yeah.
are.
You guys have a podium nicer than an AV cart.
Oh, buddy, now that Chris doesn't work, I can't wait for Sundays when we can break that out. You have no idea what I've got planned. So with that said, strength of schedule, I really do like the way this stacks up for us because there's not a lot of elite competition at quarterback or head coach. And generally speaking, that's where you measure a Josh Allen, Sean McDermott combination against everybody else. Can you out-coach us or can you out-quarterback me? There's not a lot of teams that can, there's a handful of teams that can get in that conversation on any given week. Most of them can't. And that's why the Bills perennially are double-digit win teams. Even when you don't like the talent, even when you think we're rebuilding. Oh my God, it is. Poverty franchise. Poverty franchise. This is what it looks like. Go put it in there, Chris. Make sure that the viewers on YouTube can see this. Oh my God. It's the high school TV AV card.
Is that Zach Taylor?
I don't know who that is.
It doesn't matter who it is. The fact that you would wheel that out in front of anybody to speak, what are we doing?
I want to say it's Zach Taylor because if that's Trey Hendrickson, that man is fragile.
No, it's not.
Skinny looking.
He's fragile. He's Dalton Kincaid.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was getting at.
So now I want to talk about the things that really matter about the schedule. Tailgate and just competition. In terms of competition in just the NFL, 4 out of 5 at home to open the season where the Bills were undefeated last year. Arguably with a slightly better roster than we had last year. I like our odds, right? 3 of 5 at home to end the season. We have a real opportunity to string together 4 to 5 so if you're saying 4 out of 5 at home to start, if we replicated last year's success at home, That's 7 wins out of an 18-game season. That's significant, or an 18-week, 17-game season. That's significant. That's almost half your schedule right there. Where when you look at it too, you get Philly here. That game could matter if you're talking about seeding. Chris, if you want to go ahead and give me a goog on where Kansas City is, week 17, like what's their back half of their schedule look like? If we're trying to figure out how we stack up around everything, I like the end of our schedule. And I like the beginning of it because even with all the primetime games, and I'm going to be tired as shit, there's still a lot to like in terms of the makeup of the competition. We're not playing a lot of stout teams with proven quarterback talent. And so I assume the Bills
They
will
play
put that
Christmas against Denver on Prime.
That's not going to be easy out. I mean, they were a better team. Hopefully,
Denver almost beat them twice last year.
Yeah.
The Titans, the Chargers, the Texans, geez. So really, they have a really nice, soft schedule there at the back half of the year. Okay. That's all I need to see. Taking back to the Bills' schedule. If you go back, all of the Bills' losses were on the road last year.
I think 5-4 on the road.
5-4 on the road. You take a look at our road games. The Jets, Falcons, Carolina. Early on, I don't expect to lose many of those.
no.
I could see a world where we go 3-0, but 2-1. Let's say Atlanta surprises everybody. They've put together a competent team. Penix has grown. Drake London is having a great year, and Penix has learned how to use his weapons by that point. Kyle Pitts has showed up for the first time in 5 years. Maybe we're 2-1 on the road. And what? Miami, New Orleans, and New England all at home. We're gonna go 2-1 there.
Yeah.
I like this. I like the way it all stacks up early. So then the question is, throughout that middle portion of the season, can you sustain it? November is weird because, again, Miami, by that point, injuries will have set in and their lack of roster depth, as it usually does, will creep in. Tampa Bay is a weird one.
They're a sneaky good team.
Houston being a Thursday night football game, I don't know what Houston is. And I don't know what they'll be by that point in the season. At Pittsburgh is a fun game, considering that we still don't even know if they have a quarterback. If they're throwing out Kenny Pickett, Chris, that game is...
He doesn't play for
He plays for the
Pittsburgh.
Browns. We're talking
no.
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. Whatever third cut rate asshole that they still have there who doesn't deserve to be in the NFL. Why is Mason Rudolph still in the league?
They drafted a quarterback this year.
They did. He was like a 6th round, though. He was a real...
He's not going to
level
play.
guy.
And then you go into Cincinnati. So you have this really soft schedule ahead of Cincinnati. So it's not like you're playing the murderer's row we did last year. You have Kansas City, a lull, then Cincinnati, and then a lull, and then Philly. I like that there's no stretch of, oh my God, we have to get up for hyper competitive games week after week.
Yeah.
But also, is that a detriment where you can't just, like, we came out of that bye hot.
Yeah.
We crushed San Francisco. Then we went to the wire with LA in a game that we should have won.
Yep.
And then we stayed hot against the Lions in what was maybe the game of the year.
Very possible, yeah. I'd rather have the lulls, so if you do have to have a game you drop here and there, it's not like you're having to play these hard teams, and it's not like we had to do with the 2023 season where we had to win out to win the AFC East. Like, I'd rather say, hey, okay, if we have to drop a game here and there because of injuries or just bad game, whatever, we're not going to be screwed. But I'd rather do that where you don't have to win every game and it's a tough game. It's just, I'd rather have some play with that.
I wanted to talk about the way we stack up in the AFC East, but honestly, I'll save that for a separate podcast because I want to close this out from a tailgate perspective. For those of you guys who don't know, have been living under a rock, this is the last season of football at Ralph Wilson Stadium. That means something to me. I mean, I've only known it as Rich and then Ralph Wilson Stadium. That's it. In my life, and I never called it Rich Stadium. I just called it the Bills place because I was a little kid. And then when I started going to games, it became Ralph Wilson Stadium. And it was like, oh, okay, that's an easy thing to call it. Ralph Wilson Stadium. And I'm never going to call it anything else. But that doesn't matter because it won't be here for much longer. I get a little emotional when I think about this because I look at what this lays out, Chris. Baltimore at home on Sunday night to open it. You know people are going to come in from out of town in droves for this.
Speaking of droves, replace a letter with the letter I. Somebody's going to drive over a tent at that game.
I don't know who you're talking about, Chris. I would never do such a thing. And then you think about, again, home, early, Miami, September. Home against New Orleans, but a classic 1 o'clock throwback style game. This time with no streakers, hopefully. Although what I loved is I went to work the following Monday. And so my coworkers were like, oh, Drew, you're a drunk. Was that you running around on the field? I go, did you see that guy's abs? There was no chance. Did you see the way he outran security? I'm not that athletic. You're giving me way too much credit. I think that the early home slate, the fact that we have 4 out of our first 5 at home, Chris, this is almost like the NFL doing us a favor in the sense that they know what the weather here is like in Buffalo. They know what the tailgate community and what the camaraderie here is like. This is a giant gift to us as Bills fans who love going out and tailgating, even if we don't go to the games, to show up, be a part of the game day community. This schedule gives us that. And whatever you say about the competitiveness of it, looking at it makes me so happy because I know that in those first couple weeks, I'm going to get to see so many of our friends and so many of the people who are close enough we consider them family. And we're going to have, if you're going to send off a building like this, you're going to get a giant portion of your best games when the weather is still tolerable and when you can hang out at the crack of dawn and you can start a brisket at 6 a.m. in a parking lot for an 8 o'clock game. You can do these things. And I'm incredibly grateful for it. I look at this Sunday, October game against the Patriots and I go, that's a brisket game. You know why? Because October is football weather, right? It's a little crisp in the morning, but it's not freezing. The sun will come out and it'll get to about 65. Even if it's cloudy, it doesn't matter. It'll be tolerable. It's not cold. It's not single digits.
Yep.
We'll survive. You do a long, slow cook where you can stand around and drink beers with people you know, and it's that's the type of day. And I foresee a lot of that in the early going of this season's schedule. I think it's the perfect way to send this building off. And Chris, do you disagree?
Not at all. I've already, we got to make it the New Orleans game where we bring our wives 1 o'clock early.
Yep.
They can get to the game. It's not a late game.
Yep.
Weather's going to be probably nice. To kind of break down the fourth wall, Brett Coleman DM'd us and said, this is fucking horseshit. One home October game at the beginning. It's the best time of year for weather in Buffalo.
Yep.
So I like how the schedule lays out.
For those of you who don't know Brett Coleman, closet nerd about leaves and trees. He loves coming to Buffalo so that he can drive over to Chestnut Ridge and just take pictures of all the trees. Yeah.
I did not know that about him.
Yeah, I'm outing him. He's an arborist. Yeah. Dork.
I mean, that is a great view. It is a great view, but still.
I'm over here trashing him, and he's going to be like, what'd you say about me? I mean, Greg, I was kidding. I was kidding. What do you want from me?
Brett is an awesome guy.
I like how the schedule lays out. We got Lamar week 1, then 9 is Mahomes, week 14 Burrow, week 17. Nate Geary put something on Twitter about week 17 against Philadelphia probably might not mean much for either team if you look at how each division stacks up, AFC and NFC East. At that time, each Philadelphia and Buffalo could have the division in under wraps, and they don't need to play anybody.
I'll tell you what, tomorrow night I'm gonna record an AFC's roundup where I talk about the divisional stack up for the schedule, and we'll talk about the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets. So I'll tease that now. People who are seeing this on YouTube tomorrow, good for you. Tune in. You'll be able to find that. But yeah, I look at this, Chris, and like think about it. No Christmas game. But that's okay because
no holiday or international game.
And that's okay. Although that does mean Kansas City's ruining what Kansas City, Dallas. Chris, you said something earlier that I thought was fucking hilarious.
Well, because Colin Cowherd said it. So the Cowboys are on Thanksgiving against Kansas City. They're opening up the season against Philadelphia, and Colin Cowherd likened it to Apple putting the U2 album on everyone's iPods without letting them know. They just show up. Oh, why do I have this YouTube album? I don't listen to U2. Sorry, it's like the Cowboys.
Sorry, we're here. We're an installation, and you have to deal with us.
Exactly.
I just look at this and I say to myself, I'm going to get to spend a lot of like one November game, like deep November. Right? Like cold November game.
It could be nice. It could be really bad.
Could be nice. Could be bad. One early December game.
And once again, that could be really nice or really bad. I remember years ago when I was in college, there was a Titans game. It was early December, and I can't remember if we won or lost, but it was like 60 degrees, and it was really sloppy in the mud lot. And my buddy Nick just diving for passes. He walked into the game just drenched in mud, but he was so damn happy he was at a Bills game, and it was a great time. And
I remember that game.
Yeah, so he was running around the mud lot, he's absolutely just soaked in mud, and people were commenting on him. He's like, I don't care, I'm at a Bills game, I'm having a great time, and it was just a great day for football. Being 60 degrees, any other time he would have been miserable. Just it worked out well though.
One early December game, one late December game. Like this thing lays out perfectly for a nice send-off to the building.
Exactly.
Last week home, no matter what, you get that final week 18 game. The Bills will have a home playoff game.
Yes.
I'm not even going to speak anything else into existence. But what I'll say is that last game, Chris, against the Jets, regardless of what time it is.
Scott's not coming.
I'm going to get choked up. You saw me cry when they brought out Kyle Williams.
I'll put myself out there. I will say I'll probably cry too. As somebody who's slightly dead inside and does not show emotion to anyone other than my wife. I've cried in front of my wife more than I've ever cried in front of anybody else combined. I will probably cry. Probably not the Jet game. Our last playoff game, I probably will, knowing because playoffs, I'm going to know I'm walking out of there. I'm not coming back into this building ever again.
What are we stealing on the way out?
God,
what are we stealing on the way out of our last game at Ralph Wilson Stadium?
The piss troughs.
I was going to say I like the don't.
We're going to have to find a way to bring in power tools to take a whole railing.
Don't threaten dog. I know friends with 3D printers. Don't threaten me with a good time. We can make some shit happen. Yep. What are we taking? That's the real question.
I know they had to sell anything of value at that stadium, which means everybody's going to want to buy everything out there. They're going to make a shit ton of money off of
Chris, I want the signs that say not to pee in the sink. I want them. I want them badly.
Are they actual signs, or are they spray painted on
in
the...
some bathrooms? Okay. They're actual signs, and I want them. I feel like that last game in the stadium, it's just going to be me pulling an Ocean's 11, just running around stealing things like this.
And that
allegedly, because I don't want anyone who works with the team to find out about it.
You ready for this? You ready for this? That Jet game, I'm picturing you wearing a trench coat like the dude in Can't Hardly Wait that just rolls up, like end of the movie, he just rolls up in the diner and puts his trench coat around a gumball machine and then tries to sneak out with it. That's how I picture you. Can't Hardly Wait. What a movie reference.
See, look, you finally have a film reference.
There we go.
Guys, it's a Festivus miracle. Kyle, fair schedule or no?
I would say so. The only thing I don't like I said before, is the bye week, but sometimes that's just how it lays out. But I mean, you're not getting any murderer's row of tough games. Everything's spread out nicely. A lot of home games at the beginning, some home games at the end. There's not much you can really hate about it. I mean, there's always something you can improve, but other than the bye week. But once again, the bye week seems to always come at the right time for when you need it. So I'll take it and run with it. And then I do want to add one extra thing. And I got this from the Cover One Discord, which I'm in there. The Bills opened the stadium in 1973 with the Jets as the home opener, and so it's fitting that they end the season or the stadium with the Jets, final. I would have picked Miami as the final because Miami is just, I don't know, I think it's more appropriate, but it makes sense, and that's a great nod to their
that's a really cool homage to just history.
Yes.
God. Guys, it's going to be a hell of a thing. It's going to be a hell of a thing when they bring that down. I already talked about it. I may drive over and watch them bulldoze it.
The only thing that's better is if we beat Kansas City in the AFC title game to end that's how you close out the stadium. Building. Yes, that would be the perfect way to end it.
God, you want me to cry in front of you guys? Want me to start crying right now? Just talk. I'll have 2 more beers. I'll get weepy and go. Can you imagine what it would be like? And then I'll put some Bob Seger on, and it'll get ugly. Guys, we're lucky, right? We've been blessed. Our team is great. We have another shot at making a run at a title. Our team arguably has a better shot than it had last year.
Oh, yeah.
And I look at the way the schedule lays out, and I just go, look, I'm going to get to spend so many great weather weeks with all of our friends, everyone who's here, anybody who wants to come in. Guys, do not be a stranger. It's the last season in the building that I've known my entire life. Come share it with me. Get a hold of us at Rockpile Report. If you don't have Twitter, rockpilereport716@gmail.com. Reach out to us. Let us know when you're coming. Trust me, we're hospitable. People have found that out over the years.
We just got to find a new tailgate spot.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Because tents.
Because Drew's caused enough vandalism, destruction of personal property. I've done enough of that for one lifetime. Although I'm not finished. I'm not even close to done yet, Kyle. No. It's a real problem. Guys, we got to get out of here. But don't be strangers. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. Kyle Trimble from bangedupbills.com. Where can everybody follow your work on social media?
Everywhere at Banged Up Bills, Twitter, X, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, anywhere you want to talk about injuries, I'm on there. I'm doing lots of extra work for Bills Digest, Locked On Bills, and somewhere I forgot to mention before, DLF Fantasy. I'm everywhere you can find injuries.
Busy man.
I am.
This has been your Rock Power Report, folks. We'll see you on the other side.